This is Across the Streams Media Podcast.
Hey, good evening and welcome to my best show ever. A lot of people have asked me, Steve, how can you say that this is going to be your best show ever? You're live, how do you know what's going to happen? Well, sometimes a performer gets a feeling in his gut. It's kind of an instinct, an intuition about a show, and I've got that feeling tonight. I don't know why. Our script isn't very good. We haven't had much rehearsal. The actors hate their parts. The producer doesn't think I'm funny, and the director thinks I'm scum. But still, I have this feeling that this is going to be my best show ever. Like, all of these negatives will turn around and become one big positive. And NBC has told me they're going to be watching the show, and if they think it's going well, they've promised no commercial interruptions. That's right, no commercial interruptions.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dan Aykroyd podcast. I am your host, Scott White, and I am joined once again by my friends from above the border. Let's hear it for the Canadian movie crew.
Yay!
Yay! Insert your own cheers here. Yeah. We're
I'm
just
Derek.
a couple of wild and crazy
guys.
Hey,
We're looking at the 1981 Steve Martin television special, My Best Show Ever, or as I like to call it, another episode of Saturday Night Live.
right?
Yeah, thank you. It's even produced by Lorne Michaels.
It's got the logos everywhere. Sorry, Mean Mark here from Canadian Movie Crew. Yeah, it's got the logos there. It took me back to my childhood, being like, but like I thought Mike Myers was going to show up or something because that was my heyday for SNL.
Well, it had Al Franken.
Not only Al Franken and Davis. It was written by Dan and Steve Martin and Franken and Davis, a bunch of Saturday Night Live writers. It guest stars Dan, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Lorraine Newman, all from Saturday Night Live,
Yep.
Paul Schaefer, and it was done live.
I was going to say it was done live, yeah.
Yeah,
Except
it was
for the Eric
broadcast
Idle
live.
bit, of course. Right?
And
the
it was-
Eric Idle bit was obviously was not live.
Except for the Eric Idle bit. And to me, this just could have easily been the Dan Aykroyd special because he's in it just as much as Steve Martin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If they had called it the Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin's Happy Fun Hour or something, yep. Sure. And now, are you sure it was written by Steve? And I only asked because the closing credits written by, and I was looking for Steve Martin's name, did not see it.
Well, I looked it up on IMDb. It was on IMDb that he was one of the 25 writers on this show.
Basically, if you stood up and said, I have a suggestion, you got a writing credit.
Yeah.
You sneezed in the writing
Yeah.
room and your name got on the special.
Yeah.
Little Timmy from Michigan writes, do more of the Czechoslovakian dudes. You know what I mean? Like, he got a writing credit. Like,
Yeah.
So the special starts off with Steve Martin singing a comical version of New York, New York.
I gotta admit, I kind of liked it. I liked the set that he was on. The floor painting of like a map of New York with the 3D, towers that he could just kind of jump up and act the fool on. I kind of liked it. I was like, this is kind of neat.
And the chorus was always, I'm gonna be a part of it. New York, New York, New York, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where I come in and say I'm not a Steve Martin fan.
Why is it that we always are torturing Derek? Every podcast we do, he's like, I'm not a fan of this. I don't like it.
Welcome to the Canadian Movie Cruise. I'm not a fan of this podcast. We're here with special guest Scott White and something we don't like,
But there are things like from Steve Martin that I do like especially from a Saturday Night Live one, his Christmas Wish sketch.
Oh yeah,
I mean
classic.
that's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Throughout this whole song, I was like, okay, yeah, New York, New York, New York, New York. Okay, that's the shtick of this thing, right? But what I have to say is I loved him buying the high note singer.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't reach those high notes. I was like, okay, that's funny.
Yep. And the guy's dressed like a hot dog vendor, and
Yeah.
Yeah, that
There's
was good.
also a sight gag where he starts by having his coat slung over his shoulder. Like he's
Oh,
holding it,
yes.
but he takes his hand away and the coat is still there. And like throughout the song, he keeps trying to shrug it off.
Yeah.